That's why I sent the repair kit, put it back together. When it came back from him, the air-water syringe was missing. And I had faxed him a slip that he had signed that says if something's missing, broken, unit doesn't come back, I'm responsible and I'll pay for it. Well, he never paid for the handpiece. The Academy bought a new handpiece because it was shipped with the handpiece. So I tell people from now on, and until Evan changes, I'm going to send whatever you ask for. You're going to sign ahead of time. When it gets back to me, if it's not there, you're going to pay for what's different or to repair it. The ideal thing to do, and I happen to live in Pleasant Grove, Utah, the ideal thing is for you to come. I open up the box, I set up the unit, I show you how it works, and I put it back in the box. Because the little hoses here, if they're put back in the box in the right way, they don't get pinched. But if they're just wrapped around the unit and put back in, I'll probably have to replace 3 or 4 hoses because they got pinched, or the foot control will get pinched. The hose is there. So if they're put back, taken good care of, come back, they'll be just great and we won't have any problems. I could go on and talk because it will usually take a half hour to get somebody oriented and they're ready to leave. But any questions that anybody has about using the units as far as what they involve? So you're now going to take everything with you but this.
You want to share some ideas on how to get an air compressor?
Air compressors come in a lot of different places, but the worst place that we've had is we just went down on a corner where they sold tires in one little Mexican village and asked them if they had an air compressor, and we gave them enough money that they wouldn't have made that much money during the week to fill up the tires, and they gave us a little air compressor. The problem with the air compressors coming from different countries like that, they're not the waterless, they're not the oilless like you're used to in your office, and it makes me very nervous when I'm doing composites and blowing air out of that air compressor because I know what quality of the air is coming out of that compressor. But they're rentable. We've never had a problem. In Peru, I had 4 air compressors hooked up, just all the hoses, because one air compressor wouldn't. It was a little tiny one, and we just kept hooking them up to more hoses until we had the 4, and then it would run our units. You had a question.
Well, a comment. You can actually, I've run those units on scuba tanks. Works fantastic.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's what this gizmo right here is. I have 2 of them.
You can run 2 tanks, so usually give a guy a day worth of dentistry.
Well, we've got a young lady.
Young, that's the key.
Who's a dentist. Who would like to go to Rotan? Got a diver in the place? They probably wouldn't even want to go because it's off of the coast of Honduras. Diving capital of the world.
They got tanks everywhere.
They've got tanks everywhere. They work with a unit like this. This screws on the top of a dive tank. These 2 fittings right here will plug into your unit, will plug into it, and guess what? She can get about a day from, what, 7 in the morning until...
If I'm using a lot of air, though, if I'm a lot of suction, I can't quite get on a dive tank. I have to add a second dive tank in. But and if you're not doing that, you can go almost.
But the suction's what's eating it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll take more air on the suction. So if you let them just swallow and spit, you're okay.
Yeah.
The other choice you can run it on is nitrogen.
Similar kind of tank, right? You got to have an attachment.
You got to have a different regulator attachment, but you can get a tall nitrogen bottle. It'll go a week.
Wow.
Exactly.
And it's bone dry air. It's the best air you can ever come with. So nitrogen, and a lot of tire places.
But don't wait until you get there.
No, you got to figure it out ahead of time because you're not going to figure it out when you get there.
No. Question.
Yeah, just a question and a comment. I've used the ATIC units. I've used the Septico units, and it seems like the biggest challenge and concern I always have is if I haven't squared up exactly the compressor or what I'm using ahead of time, to go down to a corner shop in Mexico and buy a compressor, it's sometimes very difficult to get the right fittings so you can connect to your ATIC tank. We were just in India a couple months ago, and we spent half a day just trying to get the compressor we got from India, which was a dental compressor, to work with the tanks. And the other thing that we found was we had purchased a compressor from Aseptico, and it was a brand new compressor we were trying to travel, that we were going to take with us to travel, and we got denied by the TSA to take it on the plane because they had no way to inspect the tank. And so the Aseptico units that don't have a compressor are fine to go, but I think they're starting to really clamp down on what you can and can't take on the plane. So I don't know what suggestions you have. I mean, I brought kits of all kinds of attachments to try to make sure I can do it, and I still come up short.
There are some fittings, and I've got a sack of fittings that I'll usually go through and say, now let's see where you're going, and here's some parts. So one of the things I try to do is see that you're fixed up wherever you're going. And quite often, a lot of these places I've been to. But there is a fitting, not like this, but it's got a hole that you put a C-clamp around, and you just take, everywhere you go you can find a hose that's coming out of their compressor. So now you got a hose, you shove it in and put a C-clamp on, and you put your own, that fitting fits in here, right in here. So if they don't know where they're going, they're going to get one of those in this little bag of tricks that I'm going to send with them. Yeah, compressors. We usually have somebody in the country where we're going that has lined everything up for us. But sometimes we get there. When we got to the DR this last couple of months ago, she had the Catholic sister had 2 little compressors. The year before I had a great big one. I said, why don't we have the big one? She says, well, that was, the hospital owns that, and they won't let us take it anymore. They need it in the hospital. But somebody had gone to the hospital and pirated it the first time we went there. The second time they wouldn't let it go. Those 2 compressors wouldn't work, so the bus driver that we had arranged for, he went back into town and into Santo Domingo and found an air compressor, and we bought it. And it sits there in the Catholic clinic now, there in the DR. But yeah, compressors is a tricky thing. But one time in Peru, when John went with us in Peru, we had a big tall compressor there that would put out 200 pounds. And we hired a Peruvian to sit there. Do you remember that little guy sit there and pulled the plug? We said, when it gets to the top, you pull the plug. When it gets down here, you put it back in. Because all of a sudden, all our airlines were starting to blow apart. I mean, I shouldn't say this. Don't go on one of these trips if you're not mechanically inclined. Take somebody else with you that is. Because you'll get in trouble. You know, they'll call me. Every time I put the handpiece in, it falls down. Well, there's a set screw underneath. Tighten it up. Oh, what do I use? You hear what I'm saying? Questions? Good. Thanks.
Dave, this is going to go off a little bit, but how have you set these things up? I mean, how did you get the thing in DR and the different places that you've been? How did you arrange?
We usually have someone
request?
Either request or we know. See, now, I've been to the Dominican Republic, not like you have, but I've been there 3 times. The first time we my son was a missionary. And he said, Grandpa, or my grandson, he said, Grandpa, they've got rotten teeth in the DR. Why don't you bring your group and come down? I said, okay, will you find us a church where we can work? And we'll make some contacts with the branch president, and he'll find us an air compressor and publicize it, and we'll come and work. And that's how that started. The next time we went, they wouldn't let us work in the church, and so we found the Catholic sister. So the next time I just called the Catholic sister and I said, is it okay to come again? Well, it's ideal because they make a little money. They charge everybody 50 cents to come to the clinic, and it was a win-win for them and for us too. We've got contacts. When I say we, AYUDA, and I'm sure all of the other groups, but AYUDA has contacts in a lot of different places. But the lady that was a dentist that just left in Rotan, somebody come and got a unit from me. And so now I've got a contact. We've got people in our academy group in AYUDA that wants to go there. And so we've got a contact. She will help us set up in that country what we need. But usually, it's a returned missionary, it's somebody like that that says, oh, we'll come to this locale. And for the academy, we've got tremendous resources. We have 10 units, and probably in a year's period of time, I don't know, we probably rent half of them, 3/4 of the time, I don't remember, you know, but whenever they leave, they come back, I say,